I returned to my grandparents' farm after losing my job. It had been almost a month since then. I remembered a family reunion there, but the good times felt distant now. The farm felt heavy, like it held secrets. I couldn't shake that feeling. When I arrived, I unpacked my bags in the old farmhouse. The floors creaked under me. It was quiet, maybe too quiet. That night, as I lay in bed, I heard something. Footsteps. They were soft at first. I wasn't sure if it was my imagination. I told myself it was just the house settling. But the sound kept coming back. A chill ran down my spine. The next morning, I stepped outside. I wanted to breathe the fresh air. I noticed the swing set still standing. The chains were rusted, but the swing moved slightly. I looked around for a breeze, but there was none. My heart raced. I laughed it off, trying to shake the strange feeling. Still, something felt off inside. Over the next few days, odd things kept happening. I found footprints in the dirt that led straight to the barn. When I followed them, they just vanished. My stomach sank. Who could it be? I asked my family, but they hadn't seen anything strange. Maybe it was just me. At night, whispers came from the walls. I sat up, heart pounding. I stared at the wooden beams, the shadows feeling thicker. I wanted to tell my brother, but I held back. Maybe I just needed time to adjust. Still, it felt like someone was watching me, waiting. One evening, I was cleaning the barn. The silence was heavy. I stood still, feeling my breath quicken. I thought I saw a shadow move. I turned, but nothing was there. My hands trembled, and I wiped them on my jeans, hoping to settle my nerves. Then, as I stood by the barn door, a voice floated through the air. Jake. It called my name. I froze, heart racing. I looked around, but no one was there. The air felt thick, pressing on me. I turned and ran back to the house, unsure of what I had just experienced. Was my mind playing tricks on me? Or was something lurking in my grandparents' past? Late that night, I lay wide awake. My thoughts were buzzing. Then I remembered the old family stories. I had heard whispers about a tragedy on the farm years ago. Some relatives had gone missing. I never paid it much mind, but maybe it was linked to what I was feeling now. The next day, I decided to search the attic. I found a dusty trunk filled with old letters and photos. Flicking through them, I came across one that sent chills through me. It was a letter from my grandmother to my grandfather. In it, she mentioned strange noises at night and shadows in the fields. My breath caught. Everything clicked into place. I was caught in a cycle. The farm held darker stories than I ever knew. What happened here? What spirits were still lingering? I didn't know if I'd find out. But I knew one thing, I was not alone anymore. The next morning, I woke up feeling a mix of dread and curiosity. I couldn't shake the letter from my grandmother's trunk. I got out of bed, wanting to find out more about the farm's history and the whispers. I remembered my grandma mentioning an old neighbor, Mrs. Harris. She had lived in the area for decades and knew just about everything that happened around the farm. I decided to drive over to her house. The sun shone brightly, but the light felt oddly filtered. As I parked in front of her small cottage, I felt the weight of anticipation. I knocked on the door, hearing footsteps approach from within. Mrs. Harris opened the door, her wrinkled face breaking into a warm smile. Jake. It's been ages, she said, pulling me into a brief hug. Hi, Mrs. Harris. I'm back at the farm, I replied, trying to sound casual. I wanted to ask you about some things. Ah, the farm, she said, her voice dropping slightly. Always has its secrets. I invited myself in, taking a seat at her worn kitchen table. As we exchanged small talk, I finally broached the topic. I found some strange things in the attic, letters from my grandmother. She talked about noises and shadows. Do you know anything about that? Her expression darkened. There were stories, yes. Some say the land is cursed. You see, years ago, a family went missing right before harvest. No one knew what happened to them. My stomach twisted. I didn't want to hear it, but I needed to know. What do you mean? Were they ever found? She shook her head slowly. No. Just vanished. Folks say they still wander the fields. I felt a chill creep over me. Mrs. Harris glanced out the window, her eyes narrowing. You be careful, Jake. Often, the past stay buried where it belongs. I nodded, trying to shake off the fear that tightened in my chest. After chatting a while longer, I left, but her words echoed in my mind. As I drove back to the farm, the unease settled in deeper. Once home, I stepped outside to clear my head. The breeze picked up, rustling the leaves and sending a shiver down my spine. I made my way back to the barn, wanting to confront my fears. The building loomed before me, silent and imposing. I found the courage to step inside. As I explored, my heart raced. The air felt charged. I caught movement from the corner of my eye. My breath hitched. A figure flashed just outside the barn, right at the edge of the field. I squinted, but there was nothing. Then, I heard it again. Jake. The voice from before, clear and familiar, floated through the darkness. My heart pounded. I turned to bolt, but my body wouldn't move. That's when I saw it, shadows shifting in the corner of my vision. I felt trapped, and an unease I couldn't shake took hold. Something wasn't right. What did Mrs. Harris mean? Did those lost spirits return? I had to find out, but I could feel danger creeping closer. I needed to prepare for whatever had awakened in the shadows of my family's past. That night, I struggled to sleep. The whispers in my mind only grew louder, echoing Mrs. Harris's warnings. I pulled the blankets tightly around me, but it didn't help. I kept thinking about the shadows in the barn. I needed to know what I was dealing with. I decided that I would return to the attic. When dawn broke, a heavy fog hung in the air. I stumbled out of bed, fueled by a mix of fear and determination. The attic felt like an untamed territory, full of forgotten memories. After breakfast, I climbed the narrow staircase to the attic, feeling the stairs creak under my weight. The smell of dust and old wood enveloped me as I opened the door. Sunlight streamed in through a small window, illuminating boxes piled high. I made my way through the clutter, pushing aside aged furniture and forgotten relics. At the back, I spotted a wooden chest, much like the one I had found the letters in. The chest looked worn but sturdy, its edges dark with age. I hesitated, heart racing, but I couldn't resist. I unlatched it and lifted the lid. Inside, I found a jumble of old photographs, yellowed papers, and more letters. I rifled through the contents, half expecting to see something familiar. Most of it was just family photos, but then, I found something disturbing. A small, torn piece of paper had a sketch of the barn. An X marked the spot near the entrance. My stomach dropped. What could have been buried there? Before I could think further, I heard a sound from behind me. A soft scratching, like nails against wood. I turned quickly, but there was nothing there. I strained my ears, but the sound stopped. I felt beads of sweat trickling down my back. I shook myself free from the anxiety creeping in. I couldn't let fear take hold. I grabbed the sketch and hurried down the stairs. I needed answers, and that mark was a clue. Outside, the fog still loomed, wrapping around the trees like a shroud. I headed straight for the barn, clutching the paper tightly. As I approached, I began to hear faint whispers again, carried by the wind. My heart raced as I felt icy tendrils of dread wrapping around me. Once inside, I studied the floor near the entrance, where the X was drawn. I knelt, brushing away some dirt with my hands. The ground felt solid beneath me, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was just below the surface. Maybe the whispers were warning me. Suddenly, I heard footsteps behind me. My breath caught in my throat. I whipped around and froze, eyes wide. There stood a figure, dark and indistinct, framed against the barn's shadowy interior. The whispers grew louder, echoing in my head. Then everything went dark. The faint light I'd relied on vanished, leaving me in total blackness. Panic surged through me. I scrambled to my feet, trying to see, but the shadows surrounded me, thick and blinding. Standing there, I realized that whatever was happening was far worse than I had imagined. I needed to find the truth before it consumed me. But before I could gather my thoughts, I felt a cold breath against my neck. My heart raced, pounding loudly in the void of darkness. I gulped, the chill clawing at my skin. Whispers swirled around me, forming unintelligible shapes that curled in my mind. The air turned heavier, and I felt disoriented, like I was floating. I took a step, testing the ground, and stumbled forward. My fingers brushed against something cold and smooth a wall. Panic rose as my thoughts raced. The cold breath still lingered, hovering just beyond my shoulder like a dark secret. I couldn't stay here, I had to get out. With shaky hands, I fumbled along the wall, searching for the door. It felt like an eternity, but I finally found the handle. I pulled it open with all my strength, stumbling out into the daylight. Fresh air flooded my lungs, but my relief was short-lived. The barn felt different now, sinister. I looked back, half expecting the shadowy figure to follow me out. Instead, all I saw was the old wooden frame standing tall but silent. The whispers faded, replaced by the chirping of birds outside. Yet, an unsettling feeling lingered. I clutched the sketch tightly, trying to make sense of what just happened. What did the X mean? I needed to dig deeper. I forced myself to focus, to shake off the dread that surrounded me. I had to find whatever was buried beneath the barn. Walking around the barn, I inspected the area near where I had knelt. Dried grass and dirt crumbled under my fingers, and my heart quickened again at the thought of what I might uncover. With every step, I felt like I was being watched. "I'm just looking for answers," I whispered to no one, my voice trembling slightly. I knelt again, scraping the earth with my hands. It was hard work, but something strange pushed me forward. The air felt charged, electric, as if the ground itself was alive, hiding secrets beneath its surface. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed from inside the barn. I leapt back, heart racing. My first instinct was to call out, but I was met with only silence. "Hello?" I shouted, my voice shaky. No response. Then I heard it again, a soft whoosh and a clatter. It came from the corner of the barn I hadn't noticed before. I crept closer, trepidation fueling my every step. Shadows shifted, making it hard to tell what was real and what was just my imagination. As I peered into the corner, I saw something glint, a metallic shaft sticking out from the floor. My heartbeat thundered in my chest as I glanced back at the entrance. The last hints of sunlight began to flicker, as if the darkness was creeping back. I knelt again, hands trembling as I brushed aside the dirt. My breath caught in my throat when I realized it was a shovel, old yet sturdy, still bearing the weight of its purpose. That S when I saw it, a small latch in the floor just beside the shovel, half buried beneath the soil. I hesitated, dread settling in my stomach. Was this the truth I was searching for, or did it bring more danger? Would I be ready to face whatever lay beneath? The sun dipped lower, and evening shadows stretched across the barn. I had to make a choice. But before I could decide, I heard footsteps again, this time from inside. Someone or something was approaching. I froze, my heart skidding to a halt as the footsteps grew louder. Each step echoed like a warning, heavy and deliberate. I glanced around for a place to hide, but the barn was empty except for shadows and dust motes swirling in the fading light. I couldn't give in to fear, I needed to know who or what was coming. My breath came out in quick, shallow bursts as I crawled back toward the corner where I had found the shovel. The latch. I pressed my palm against it, feeling an irresistible pull toward whatever lay beneath the surface. Yet, the sound of approaching footsteps paralyzed me. I was caught between two threats: the dark secrets of the barn and the mysterious presence inside. Then, I heard a voice, low and gravelly. "I know you're out there," it called. "You shouldn't be here." The voice sent chills down my spine. Who were they? What did they know? Every instinct urged me to run, but my feet felt glued to the floor. I couldn't let this moment pass without understanding. Crouched behind the shovel, I strained to make out any details. The uncertainty of what lay ahead twisted in my gut. The man stepped into view. He was tall, with a weathered face and eyes that glimmered with something dangerous. I recognized him, the neighbor who lived a few farms down. He was known for his stories, tales passed around the dinner table about his wild youth. But as I looked at him now, I saw only tension and a hint of something darker. "Stay away from that," he said, motioning to the latch on the floor. My heart raced. He knew about it. Why? I managed to croak out, adrenaline fueling my words. "What's down there?" His expression hardened. "You need to leave. It's not safe. I can't let you dig that up." Before I could respond, the ground shivered beneath me as if it sensed the tension. I saw his gaze flicker to the darkness behind me, a flash of fear breaking his tough exterior. "Get out!" he shouted, voice like thunder. "It's not just your curiosity that will get you into trouble." Panic surged through me at his urgency, but the weight of my own questions pressed down harder. What did he know? I glanced at the latch again, urgency battling with fear. I had to know what was hidden. The barn felt alive around me, every creak and sigh amplifying the fear in my chest. The man stepped closer, his face shadowed but fierce. "I only want to help you," he said, barely audible above the shifting air. "But you have to trust me. There are things better left buried." His warning ignited a fire inside me. Could I trust him? Or was this just another layer to the mystery? The shadows grew thicker, pulling me toward the latch. I could feel the secrets buried beneath the barn calling out. Then a chill ran through the air, and I knew I had to decide. I could either flee with unanswered questions forever chasing me or confront the truth that loomed just out of reach. Before I could make my choice, the barn suddenly grew silent, the only sound the distant rustle of leaves. The man's eyes widened. "We don't have time," he shouted, glancing back toward the barn's entrance. I looked in the same direction and felt the darkness encroach again. Just as I reached for the latch, the door slammed shut, plunging us back into silence and shadows. I gasped as the door's loud bang echoed through the barn, the sound wrapping around us like a coil of dread. My instincts screamed at me to escape, but the urge to uncover the secrets below held me in place. "Listen." The man's voice trembled and cut through the stillness. "We don't have much time. I need you to understand. It's not what you think." I swallowed hard, the fear in his voice making my heart race even faster. "What do you mean? What's down there?" As he opened his mouth to speak, a sudden tremor shook the barn. It was more intense than before, rattling the walls and sending loose hay raining down on us. I flinched, stumbling backward, my back hitting the cold, hard floor. "Things are waking up," he shouted. "The latch. You can't." His urgency pierced through my confusion. I could see terror flashing in his eyes. "What do you mean?" I cried, feeling the ground vibrate beneath me like a heartbeat. Just trust me, he pleaded. We need to get out of here. If they sense us, his voice broke off, a raw edge creeping in. The dim light cast shadows on his face, making him look almost haunted. In that moment, another noise broke through the air, a faint scraping sound from the dark corner of the barn, not far from where I crouched. My blood ran cold. Whatever was down there was aware of us. That's it. The man yelled, his voice sharp. We're out of time. He lunged toward me, grabbing my wrist, his grip tight and urgent. Now. Before I could protest, he pulled me across the barn floor, the latch forgotten but my heart pounding with dread. We reached the large double doors at the far end, but they were locked tight. My instincts flared again, we were trapped. Help me. I pleaded, panic clawing at my throat as I focused on the dark corner where the noise had come from. Shadows danced and twisted, almost as if they had a life of their own. Hold on. He shouted back. He hurled his weight against the doors, forcing them to budge just slightly. But it wasn't enough, whatever was in the dark wouldn't let us go that easily. We can't stay here. I screamed, my own fear mixing with his. Just when I thought hope was lost, I caught a flicker of movement from the corner of the barn. I squinted, the remnants of fading light revealing a shape, a dark, hulking figure. I gasped, stumbling back from the door. Get back. The man ordered, positioning himself between me and the encroaching shadow. I don't understand. I cried. My questions chased me, desperate to escape my lips amidst the growing realization that something far worse awaited us. As the figure loomed closer, I felt a surge of determination. My gut told me to peel back whatever lay hidden, but fear tightened its grip. The barn floor trembled violently underneath us again, this time sending me to my knees. I could almost hear the whispers of things buried, things alive and watching. What did you do? I whispered, my voice nearly lost in the chaos. I didn't do anything, he said, his voice low and grave. But we can't let it out. With that final warning hanging in the air, I knew I had to choose swiftly. The truth demanded to be unearthed, but the consequences looked more terrifying than I had ever imagined. Before I could voice my fears, the doors rattled violently, sending a jolt through my body. Then everything went dark. When the darkness swallowed us, it felt like the very air was sucked away. I clawed at the void, my heart pounding in my chest, desperate for any glimpse of light. The man's grip on my wrist tightened, anchoring me to reality even as my mind spiraled. Stay close. He shouted, his voice strained. Panic laced through each syllable, and I shook with uncertainty. It took all my strength to move, inching forward, drawn by the voices of the unknown. Suddenly, a flickering source of light broke through the pitch black, casting an eerie glow in the barn. My breath caught in my throat as I caught sight of the man's face, illuminated with a mix of fear and determination. That way, he said, pointing toward the back wall, where a narrow beam of light pulsed through a crack. I nodded, though dread constricted around my chest. The ground continued to tremble, each tremor shaking loose more hay and dust. I could hear the scraping sound again, closer now, almost like claws against wood. My instincts screamed at me to run, but I followed him, fear battling curiosity within me. What was down there? With each step, the beam of light grew brighter, revealing an ominous wooden door embedded in the wall. It looked ancient, almost out of place amid the decay. The man stopped in front of it, hesitation creeping into his posture. Are you sure about this? I asked. My voice quavered, but I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever lay beyond had to be confronted. We have to find out what it is, he replied, glancing back at me. The shadows danced across his features, and I could see the flicker of resolve behind his fear. He reached for the handle, pausing just a moment before turning it. A loud creak echoed through the barn as the door slowly opened, revealing a dark tunnel leading downward. The air that wafted up felt ancient, heavy with secrets waiting to be unleashed. After you, he said, stepping aside. Despite the chill that raced down my spine, I took a deep breath and stepped into the darkness, the smell of damp earth filling my nostrils. As we descended, the sound of our footsteps contrasted with the silence enveloping us. It was unsettling. The walls felt alive, pulsating like the darkness above the barn. I wanted to turn back, but something deep inside compelled me to push forward. Then we reached the bottom. It opened into a cramped chamber bathed in a flickering, unnatural glow. Strange symbols covered the walls, twisting and turning in chaotic patterns. I felt their pull, a kind of magnetism that sent shivers down my spine. "What is this place?" I whispered, more to myself than to him. "Something hidden. Something forgotten," he answered. His voice was soft, and I turned to see his face pale and drawn. "And it shouldn't be disturbed. Not now." Before I could ask what he meant, a low growl rumbled from the shadows, vibrating through the stone floor. My heart dropped. The creature in the corner hadn't been silent for long. "Get back!" he yelled, pushing me behind him as a massive figure emerged from the darkness. It had glowing eyes and a menacing form, far worse than the shape I had seen before. As the growl erupted into a roar, I realized we had opened a door to something that could never be contained. I took a step back, my body screaming to escape as terror flared in the depths of my chest. But the darkness was closing in. I was out of time, and this wasn't just about us anymore. The roar echoed off the stone walls, drowning out any coherent thought. It was primal, unsettling, a declaration that whatever I faced wasn't just beastly, it was ancient and full of rage. My instincts screamed for me to run, but my feet felt glued to the ground. The man beside me shifted, keeping his body in front of mine. "We need to get out of here," he muttered, fear flashing across his eyes. I felt a rush of panic at hearing those words. If he was scared, then we were in serious trouble. The creature stalked forward, each step a low thud that seemed to reverberate through my bones. It had thick, matted fur and eyes that glowed with an unholy light. I wanted to look away, but I was entranced, caught in a gaze that promised blood and chaos. "Go!" he shouted suddenly, pushing me toward the other side of the chamber. The urgency in his voice snapped me back to reality. I turned and ran. The symbols on the walls blurred as I focused straight ahead. My heart raced louder than the creature's growl, drowning out everything else. The heavy thud of its paws echoed behind me, growing closer with each perilous leap. I didn't dare look back. I stumbled over the uneven stone ground but kept running, adrenaline fueling my every movement. Then, abruptly, the flickering lights around us died. Darkness hit like a wave. I stopped, panting. I couldn't see anything, not even my own hands. "Where are you?" I called out into the suffocating blackness, fear gripping my throat like a vice. "Right here," he replied, his voice close but not close enough. I reached out, desperation clawing at my chest, and felt the fabric of his shirt. Relief washed over me, but it was short-lived. A growl rumbled again, now closer. The air was thick with a promise of danger. "This way," he said, grabbing my arm and pulling me to the left. We moved blindly, my every sense heightened, searching for any flicker of light or any means of escape. Suddenly, I tripped over something hard and fell to the ground, scraping my palms. My heart raced as I fought to catch my breath. Then I noticed it a glimmer in the dark. I scrambled forward, dragging myself closer to the source. It was a stone, partially embedded in the earth, and from it shot a thin beam of eerie light, illuminating a tiny portion of the chamber. At that moment, I saw something etched into the stone. "Weird symbols," I whispered, feeling drawn to them, able to make out more in the low glow. They were similar to those on the walls, but vibrant, almost alive. I reached out to touch them, and as my fingers brushed the cool surface, a jolt of energy surged through me. The ground shook violently again, and I felt something shift in the air, the growl now mixed with a disturbed hissing. Everything around us felt as if it was coming to life. I could practically hear the walls whispering, urging me to stay and uncover their secrets. "They're coming," he gasped, panic rising in his voice. I had only moments to decide, to act. The light pulsed, vibrant and fierce, and within that moment, I made a choice. "Wait. I think it's trying to show us something." But my voice was barely a whisper above the chaos, drowned by the creature's echoing challenge. Then everything went dark. I jolted awake, my heart pounding. The darkness pressed in on me, thick and suffocating. I blinked, trying to make sense of where I was. It felt like I had been yanked from one nightmare and dropped into another. I could hear faint whispers, strange and distant, merging with the flutter of my pulse in my ears. Was I still in that chamber? "Are you okay?" he whispered, sounding strained. I finally recognized his presence beside me, the warmth of his body a small comfort in the encroaching shadows. "I don't know. What just happened?" I pushed myself up, trying to gather my thoughts. My palms throbbed from the fall, and my mind raced to recall what I had touched before the lights went out. I think we lost it," he said cautiously, scanning the dark around us. "But we can't stay here. It might come back." I nodded, despite knowing moving blindly felt wrong. My instincts urged me to stay still, to listen. That sense of danger hung like a thick fog. Before I could argue, he helped me to my feet. "This way," he said, and I followed him cautiously, every step echoing in the silence. Just then, a flicker of light appeared ahead, a weak glow breaking through the engulfing blackness. It was a flickering torch on a nearby wall, its flame wavering like a heartbeat. The air shifted, carrying with it a strange scent, earthy and bitter. "That's better," I breathed, relief washing over me. The further we moved toward the light, the clearer I could see the carvings that lined the chamber walls. "Do you see those?" I pointed at the shapes, now more defined. "They look different from before." He squinted, moving closer. "They're more detailed, like they're telling a story." I stepped up beside him, my finger grazing the surface. "What does it mean?" I murmured. But I already felt something stirring in the back of my mind, a connection to the energy I had felt before. Suddenly, a deep rumble vibrated through the stone floor, like the low growl of the creature. My breath caught in my throat, a fresh wave of panic washing over me. It was closer now, the air growing heavy with its presence. "We need to go. Now!" he shouted, and I didn't hesitate. We tore past the torch, the shadows dancing wildly as the flame flared up. Then, as I stumbled through the archway, I caught a glimpse, a massive, twisted form tearing through the darkness, eyes blazing with that unholy light. "Over here!" he yelled, pointing to a narrow corridor. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but I hesitated, my eyes locked on the creature. That's when I realized the symbols I had seen before were part of this. They weren't just decorations, they were warnings, or perhaps a map. "Go!" I yelled at him, as the beast growled again, more furious this time. We darted into the corridor, hope mingling with dread. But as I glanced back, a horrifying realization dawned on me. I couldn't escape without understanding it. Something deep inside urged me to turn around, to face it. I had to know what it wanted. Just then, the corridor began to twist, the walls shifting, and with a sudden shock, we were hurled forward into another dark space. I braced myself, the ground falling away beneath me. Then everything went dark again. I woke to the soft rays of sunlight filtering through the barn's slatted walls. For a moment, I lay still, disoriented. It felt as if I'd slipped through time, my consciousness threading back into a reality where I was safe and warm, a stark contrast to the cold darkness I'd just escaped. As I sat up, I gasped. The barn appeared untouched, still and expectant, but the weight of my experience hung over me like a storm cloud. The memories flooded back: an ancient creature, whispers of danger, and the insistent urge to know more. My heart raced as I glanced around, but the man, the danger I had felt, seemed to have vanished like shadows at dawn. Could it all be an elaborate dream? Or had the darkness claimed me for a moment, revealing truths that would never see the light? I rubbed my face, trying to dispel the remnants of confusion swirling in my head. Tentatively, I stood up. The barn felt just as I'd left it: no signs of struggle, no darkness lurking in corners. Yet something had shifted. In the back of my mind, a gnawing anxiety remained. Had I truly escaped? I moved to the barn door, opening it cautiously. The air outside was bright, filled with the sweet scent of grass and wildflowers, but an undercurrent of unease washed over me. I stepped across the threshold, and for a heartbeat, I expected to hear more whispers, feel the shadows moving around me. Instead, only the sound of chirping birds filled the air. My heart ached from uncertainty. I needed to find answers about everything: the creature, the symbols, my family's history. I walked toward the edge of the field, pausing at the spot where I had felt the X marked in the last vestiges of my dream. No disturbance was visible, but beneath me, I sensed the weight of buried secrets. I looked back at the barn, its wooden structure a stark reminder of the darkness I'd faced. I could not shake the feeling that the energy below was still there, alive and hungry. "Are you okay?" I turned to see Mrs. Harris approaching, a concerned expression etched on her aging face. "You've been in that barn a long while." "Yeah, just thinking." The weight in my stomach twisted. I couldn't exactly explain what had unfolded. The thought of Mrs. Harris would only add to my confusion. She must have sensed it. Her eyes narrowed with understanding. "You know," she said softly, "some doors should remain closed. The past has its way of creeping up on you." Her words resonated strangely with me. I remembered the stories, the missing family, the whispers. What really happened here? I asked hesitantly, wondering how much she knew. She hesitated, her expression darkening. "Not all memories are meant to be relived, young man. If you dig too deep, you might unearth something you cannot put back." Feeling a wave of unease wash over me, I nodded. "But there is something I think I need to understand it." "Maybe," she said with a sigh. "But it can come with a price." Something in her tone gave me pause. That lingering doubt from the barn echoed in my ears. I took a step back, feeling the weight of her gaze but refusing to back down from whatever truth lay ahead. As the sun began to set, the farm's shadow stretched long across the fields. I turned back to face the barn, swallowing hard. "Don't be a stranger." With that, I knew I needed to move forward, yet the memory of what I had encountered clawed at me. I might have escaped the shadows for now, but I wondered how long the peace would last. Would the creature remain trapped, or would it find a way to break free again? I couldn't shake the thought that something unnatural lingered between me and the family that had come before. I left that day with more questions than answers and the faintest hope that one day, clarity would come. But for now, the secrets of the barn and the mysteries of my family remained unearthed, their echoes haunting my thoughts, reminding me that some shadows never truly vanish.